I had planned the perfect 5th anniversary trip to Paris with my wife Amanda. 5 days of romance wine and rediscovering each other in the city of love. Everything was magical until our anniversary dinner. I left to get her diamond necklace from our hotel safe. 30 minutes later, I returned to an empty room. The security cameras showed Amanda leaving with a strange man. My phone buzzed with a text, "I cannot live this lie anymore. Do not look for me." Before I continue this heartbreaking story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever faced betrayal in a relationship. Amanda and I met at an art gallery opening in Chicago 6 years ago. I was presenting architectural designs for a new museum wing, and she was admiring a Monet painting with such intensity that I found myself drawn to her. We talked for hours that night about art, architecture, and our dreams. 1 year later, we were married in a small ceremony, with close friends and family by Lake Michigan. For 5 years, our life seemed perfect. I had a successful career as an architect, designing luxury homes and occasionally museum spaces for wealthy clients. Amanda taught art history at a prestigious private school. We complemented each other perfectly. My practical approach to design balanced her passionate love for art history. We lived in a beautiful brownstone, traveled whenever possible, and talked about starting a family soon. For our 5th anniversary, I surprised Amanda with a trip to Paris. Her eyes lit up when I presented the tickets over dinner 2 months before. She had studied in Paris briefly during college and always talked about returning. I spent weeks planning every detail. A boutique hotel near the Louvre, reservations at romantic restaurants, tickets to shows, and a special anniversary dinner at Le Jules Verne restaurant in the Eiffel Tower. The first 3 days in Paris were everything I had hoped for. We visited the Louvre, where Amanda guided me through her favorite paintings with expert knowledge. We strolled along the Seine, sipping wine and stealing kisses like newlyweds. We explored Montmartre and I sketched while she took photos of the beautiful architecture. At night, we made love in our hotel room with the windows open, the sounds of Paris creating a perfect soundtrack. On the 4th day, I noticed something odd. Amanda received a phone call during breakfast and walked away to take it. When she returned, she seemed distracted. When I asked who called, she said it was just the school checking on some paperwork. Later that day, while shopping on Champs-Élysées, I saw her typing furiously on her phone, then quickly putting it away when I approached. That night, I woke up around 2 in the morning to find her side of the bed empty. I found her in the bathroom, whispering on her phone. When she saw me, she ended the call abruptly and said she was just checking in with her sister. I wanted to believe her, but her sister Lucy lived in rural Montana and would have been asleep at that hour. The next morning, Amanda suggested we spend the day apart. She wanted to shop for a surprise anniversary gift for me, she said. Though disappointed, I agreed, and used the time to finalize details for our anniversary dinner and pick up the diamond necklace I had custom made for her, featuring a pendant inspired by her favorite Monet painting. While waiting for my order at a cafe near the jewelry store, I spotted Amanda across the street. She was sitting at an outdoor table with a tall, elegant man with silver hair. They were engaged in what appeared to be an intense conversation. When she touched his hand, I felt a knot form in my stomach. I approached them, and Amanda looked startled. She introduced the man as Jean-Pierre, a tour guide, helping her find unique local shops. The man smiled politely, but seemed uncomfortable. He excused himself shortly after. When I asked Amanda about him, she brushed it off as nothing important. I wanted to believe her explanation, but something felt wrong. On our anniversary morning, Amanda seemed nervous but excited. She spent extra time getting ready, wearing a new dress I had never seen before. We visited Notre Dame and walked through the Luxembourg Gardens. She kept checking her phone throughout the day, but I tried to ignore it and focus on our celebration. I had arranged for a private car to take us to the Eiffel Tower for our 7 p.m. dinner reservation. As we returned to the hotel to change, Amanda realized she had forgotten her earrings at a shop and insisted on retrieving them herself. I offered to go with her, but she was adamant about going alone. I reluctantly agreed, using the time to retrieve her necklace from the hotel safe and prepare for the evening. When I returned to our room at 6 p.m., expecting to find Amanda getting ready, the room was empty. Her purse and phone were gone, but her suitcase remained. I called her repeatedly, but her phone went straight to voicemail. After 30 minutes of growing panic, I went to the front desk to see if anyone had seen her. The hotel manager was sympathetic but not initially concerned. Guests often went out unexpectedly, he explained. But something in my expression must have conveyed my genuine fear, because he agreed to check the security cameras. We watched the footage together in a small back office. The timestamp showed 5:15 p.m. Amanda exited the elevator looking nervous but determined. In the lobby, she met a man. I froze when I recognized him. It was not Jean-Pierre, the supposed tour guide, but the same silver-haired man from the cafe. They exchanged words briefly, then left together in a hurry. Amanda never looked back. The manager frowned when I explained the situation. He admitted this was not the first time the man had visited. He had come to the hotel 3 times in the past 4 days, always meeting Amanda in the lobby when I was not around. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I canceled our dinner reservation and began searching Paris frantically. I started with the cafe where I had first seen them together. The waitress recognized their photos immediately. Yes, they were regulars this week. Very friendly, very intimate. She had assumed they were a couple. They spoke in French primarily, though the woman sometimes struggled. The waitress had overheard them discussing plans, something about Nice and a villa. Back at the hotel, I tore through our belongings looking for clues. Amanda had left her return plane ticket in her suitcase. Was she planning to abandon everything, our life together? Then my phone buzzed with a text message from her. I cannot live this lie anymore. Do not look for me. I called immediately, but my number had been blocked. I tried from the hotel phone with the same result. Desperate, I contacted the American embassy. The officials were sympathetic but explained that Amanda was an adult who had left voluntarily according to the evidence. The text message further complicated matters. The French police had the same response without evidence of foul play. They considered it a personal matter. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying our 5 years together, questioning every memory. Had our entire marriage been a lie? Who was this silver-haired man? What did Amanda mean by living a lie? The next morning I searched her luggage more thoroughly and found a train ticket to Nice hidden in the lining of her suitcase. I also discovered a small notebook tucked into a pocket of her cosmetic case. The notes were in French, which I did not speak well, but I recognized dates, times, and a name repeated throughout Jacques. Using Google Translate, I pieced together what appeared to be a meeting schedule with this Jacques person. There were also notes about various properties, artwork values, and security systems. Some of the properties mentioned were ones I had worked on as an architect. A terrible suspicion began forming in my mind. I decided to follow the trail to Nice. I rented a car and drove the 7 hours along the French coastline, my mind racing with theories and fears. The address I had found in the notebook led me to an elegant hotel overlooking the Mediterranean. At the reception, I claimed to be delivering architectural plans to Monsieur Jacques Laurent and Madame Amanda Wright. The receptionist informed me that Monsieur Laurent and Madame Amélie Dupont were indeed guests, but were currently out. Amélie Dupont, I pretended this was normal information, and asked when they might return. The receptionist mentioned they often dined at the hotel restaurant around 8 p.m. I thanked her and left my world spinning. Who was Amélie Dupont? And why was my wife using this name? I spent the day in a daze sitting in a rental car across from the hotel. Around 7:30 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up. The silver-haired man, presumably Jacques Laurent, stepped out and opened the door for his companion. My breath caught. It was Amanda wearing an elegant black dress. I had never seen her hair styled differently, looking somehow like a stranger. They entered the hotel arm in arm. Through the large windows, I watched them dine, laughing and talking intimately. After dinner, they left in the Mercedes. I followed at a distance to a magnificent villa overlooking the sea. The security was extensive. Gates, cameras, guards patrolling the grounds. I found a small hotel nearby and spent the night researching Jacques Laurent. He was a prominent art dealer with galleries in Paris, Nice, and Geneva. Wealthy, connected, and respected in the art world. I also hired a local private investigator with my credit card, nearly maxing it out. I needed answers more than I needed financial security. 2 days later, the investigator delivered his findings. Jacques Laurent was indeed a prominent figure in the art world, but there were whispers about his dealings. Several of his clients had acquired rare pieces with questionable provenance. More shocking was the information about Amélie Dupont. She was Jacques Laurent's wife of 8 years, reported to have been living primarily in Switzerland for the past 5 years. The timeline matched exactly with my relationship with Amanda. Marriage records confirmed that Amélie Dupont and Jacques Laurent wed 8 years ago in a private ceremony in Geneva. The investigator also found a Swiss bank account in the name of Amélie Dupont, with deposits totaling over $2 million over the past 5 years. The investigator had also traced some of the dates and locations in Amanda's notebook. They corresponded with high-profile art thefts from private collections housed in buildings I had helped design. I felt physically ill as the pieces came together. On my 5th day in Nice, I noticed Jacques leaving the villa alone. Acting on impulse, I approached the property from a secluded beach access point the investigator had identified. The security was focused on the main entrance. I managed to enter through a service door left unlocked for a delivery. Inside, I found Amanda sitting at a desk in a sunlit office reviewing documents. She looked up shocked. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she recovered, her expression hardening into something I had never seen before. "You should not have come, Howard," she said coldly. "Who are you, really?" I asked, my voice breaking despite my efforts to stay calm. She sighed, setting down her pen. "You know who I am now. Amélie Dupont Laurent, art consultant, wife of Jacques Laurent. And who was Amanda Wright? A creation," she said, standing up. "A role I played, quite convincingly, I might add. 5 years," I said. "Our entire marriage was a fraud." She walked to a cabinet and poured herself a glass of wine, not offering me one. "Business, Howard. Nothing personal. You were an excellent architect with access to the right clients, people with valuable private collections and insufficient security consciousness." Everything clicked into place. My designs, her interest in my clients, the unusual questions about security systems framed as aesthetic concerns, the coincidental art thefts that had occurred at 3 of my clients' properties over the years. "You used me to rob my clients," I said, the reality crushing me. She shrugged. "Jacques and I have been in the art relocation business for a decade. Your designs and client relationships were valuable to us. Your cover as my husband was convenient. Did you ever love me?" I asked, hating the pathetic sound of my own question. Her laugh was soft but cruel. "Love is a luxury in my business, Howard. You were pleasant company, and you served your purpose. Now this performance is over. I suggest you go home and forget you ever knew me. If you involve the authorities, we have evidence linking you to the thefts. Your signature is on all the security designs, after all." As we spoke, I heard the front door open. Jacques had returned. Amanda, or Amélie, as she truly was called out to him in French. He appeared at the doorway, his expression changing from surprise to anger when he saw me. "What have you told him?" he asked her in accented English. "Nothing that matters," she replied. "He was just leaving." But I was not ready to leave. I lunged forward, grabbing the notebook from her desk. Jacques moved quickly for a man his age, blocking me. In the struggle, I pushed him harder than I intended. He fell against an antique table, shattering a valuable-looking vase. "Security," he shouted. "Intruder." Within moments, security guards appeared. Jacques ordered them to call the police, claiming I had broken in and attacked him. Amanda backed his story, adding that I was her unstable ex-husband who had been stalking her across Europe. The notebook was taken from me before I could secure it as evidence. The French police arrived quickly. Despite my protests and attempts to explain, I was arrested for breaking and entering, property damage, and assault. As they led me away, I saw Amanda and Jacques watching from the doorway, her arm around his waist, a victorious smile playing on her lips. The holding cell was cold and smelled of disinfectant and despair. I spent 2 nights there before being formally charged. The evidence against me looked damning. I had entered the property without permission. There was property damage, and both Jacques and Amanda testified that I had been harassing them. I was allowed one phone call which I used to contact the American embassy. They provided a list of local attorneys who worked with American citizens. One name stood out: Sarah Williams, an American expatriate attorney practicing international law in Nice. I used what remained of my available credit to retain her services. Sarah arrived the next morning, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She listened to my entire story without interruption, taking careful notes. "Your wife, or this woman Amanda, she has created quite a compelling narrative against you," she said when I finished. "You are painted as the obsessive ex-husband who cannot accept the end of your relationship. They claim you followed her to France, stalked her, and finally broke into their home in a jealous rage. But we were never divorced," I protested. "We were celebrating our anniversary when she disappeared. I have evidence: our plane tickets, hotel reservations, anniversary, dinner booking." Sarah nodded. "That helps, but it is not enough. We need to shift the focus from you to them. Tell me more about these art thefts you suspect they are involved in." I explained everything I had learned, the coincidence between Amanda's involvement in my life and the timing of thefts from my clients, the notebook with property details and security notes, the Swiss bank account, and the dual identity as Amélie Dupont. "This is much bigger than a domestic dispute," Sarah said. "If what you are saying is true, they are part of a sophisticated art theft ring that falls under international jurisdiction. I have contacts at Interpol and the FBI art crime team. With your permission, I would like to bring them into this conversation." I agreed immediately. Over the next few days, while I remained in custody, Sarah worked tirelessly. She arranged for FBI agents to interview my former clients who had experienced thefts. She compiled documentation of my marriage to Amanda Wright and evidence of her double life as Amélie Dupont. Most crucially, she established that I had been unaware of the theft's connection to my wife until discovering her dual identity in Nice. A week after my arrest, I was released on bail with restrictions against leaving France. The narrative was beginning to shift. The FBI and Interpol had taken interest in Jacques Laurent and his art-dealing business. My status was changing from suspect to potential witness. Sarah advised me to cooperate fully, but carefully. "They will almost certainly have you under surveillance," she warned. "We need to use that to our advantage." We developed a strategy. I would appear to accept defeat, making arrangements to return to the United States once my travel restrictions were lifted. Meanwhile, I would work secretly with the FBI art crime team, providing detailed information about the security systems of all the properties I had designed that Amanda had shown interest in. Using my architectural expertise, I identified vulnerabilities that the theft ring might have exploited. I recalled conversations with Amanda where she had asked specific questions about client security systems, questions I had innocently answered, believing they were based on her artistic curiosity rather than criminal intent. The most valuable contribution I made was identifying patterns in the thefts. They always occurred during specific types of events: charity galas, extended vacations, or medical procedures that guaranteed the owners would be absent for a predictable time frame. Amanda had collected this information during social events and dinner parties with my clients. The breakthrough came when I recalled a conversation about a client, a tech billionaire, building a new mansion in Malibu, with plans for an extensive modern art collection. Amanda had been unusually interested in the security design and the completion timeline. I alerted the FBI, who set up surveillance on the property. Sure enough, 3 weeks after our warning, Jacques Laurent arrived in Los Angeles using a different name, but immediately recognizable from photographs. He was accompanied by a woman who was not Amanda, suggesting their operation involved multiple accomplices with different roles. The FBI, working with local authorities, monitored their surveillance of the Malibu property. When Jacques and his new accomplice attempted to access the mansion during what they believed was an owner absence, they were arrested. A search of their rental property uncovered detailed plans of the security system plans that could only have come from my original designs. With Jacques in custody in the United States, Interpol moved on the villa in Nice. Amanda, or Amélie, attempted to flee, but was apprehended at a private airfield while boarding a plane to Morocco. The villa yielded a treasure trove of evidence: stolen artwork, forged provenance documents, identity papers for multiple aliases and communications with other members of their network. Most vindicating for me was the recovery of multiple notebooks detailing their operations, including the one I had glimpsed in our hotel room. These contained explicit references to using me as an unwitting source of security information and architectural access. My name appeared throughout as the patsy, the convenient architect husband, who provided insider knowledge without realizing it. The case against them was airtight. They had orchestrated a sophisticated international art theft operation, spanning at least 7 countries over 10 years. The total value of stolen artwork exceeded $50 million. Some pieces had been sold to private collectors who believed they were acquiring legitimate pieces through proper channels. Others were being held in secure storage facilities, presumably waiting for the statute of limitations on their theft to expire. In a final vindictive move, Amanda attempted to implicate me as a knowing accomplice. She claimed I had designed the security systems with intentional flaws to facilitate the thefts. But the evidence told a different story. My original designs were sound. The security failures occurred because of subsequent modifications made after installation modifications I had never been consulted about. 4 months after my ordeal began, I was fully exonerated. Jacques Laurent and Amélie Dupont faced multiple charges in several countries. My marriage to Amanda Wright was annulled on grounds of fraud, as the woman I had married had literally never existed. The woman I knew as Amanda had used a stolen identity, building an entire fictional persona to ensnare me in their scheme. I returned to Chicago, a different man. The betrayal had cut deep, destroying my trust, not just in relationships but in my own judgment. How could I have lived with someone for 5 years and never suspected she was living a double life? How many innocent conversations had I had with her that directly led to my clients being victimized? The first few months were the hardest. I withdrew from friends and family, embarrassed by my gullibility and association with criminals. I took a leave of absence from my firm, unable to face clients whose trust I felt I had betrayed, however unwittingly. I spent days alone in my apartment, re-examining every memory of my life with Amanda, looking for signs I should have noticed. Slowly, with the help of therapy and a support group for victims of relationship fraud, I began to rebuild. I realized that Amanda's deception was not a reflection of my worth or intelligence. Con artists like her and Jacques succeed precisely because they are skilled at manipulation and exploitation of normal human trust. I returned to work after 6 months, but with a new focus. I began specializing in security-conscious design, particularly for museums and private collections. I worked closely with security consultants to create spaces that were both beautiful and highly secure. My unfortunate experience had given me unique insights into how theft rings operate and the vulnerabilities they exploit. The FBI occasionally consulted with me on cases involving architectural security breaches. I found purpose in helping others protect themselves from what had happened to my clients. Each security system I designed was a small redemption, a way of turning my painful experience into something positive. A year after returning to Chicago, I ran into Sarah Williams, my attorney from Nice. She had returned to the United States to work with an international law firm in Chicago. Over coffee, she mentioned that the case against Jacques and Amélie was proceeding with trials scheduled in 3 countries. They were facing decades in prison. "Do you ever wonder what will happen to her?" Sarah asked. I considered the question carefully. Strangely, I felt no satisfaction in Amanda's or Amelie's downfall, just sadness for the wasted potential, the years of deception, the life built on exploitation rather than genuine connection. Sometimes I wonder who she might have been if she had chosen a different path, I admitted. But I do not wonder about her fate anymore. I am focused on my own. Sarah and I began meeting regularly, first to discuss the ongoing legal proceedings, then simply to enjoy each other's company. Unlike Amanda, Sarah was straightforward, honest about her flaws and strengths. When we eventually began dating 6 months later, it was with complete transparency about our pasts, our expectations, and our boundaries. 2 years after Paris, I returned to the city with Sarah. We visited the same places I had gone with Amanda, but this time without deception between us. Standing at the top of the Eiffel Tower, looking out over the city, where my life had unraveled, and then ultimately found a truer course. I realized the most important lesson from my ordeal. Sometimes we have to lose everything to find our authentic self. I do not know the final fate of the woman I knew as Amanda, but I know my own. I choose to live in truth, never trading authenticity for the illusion of happiness. If you have ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal, share your story in the comments below. How did you learn to trust again? Remember to like this video. If it resonated with you, subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to know they are not alone in their journey of healing. Thank you for listening, and remember that your worst moments can become the foundation for your strongest self.